continue to do the work in today's budget. So while we are concerned, and we're looking at layoffs, while we're concerned about not having money to complete projects and do other things we do as a city, like field employees to fix things, we lose $3.8 million out of today's budget versus going forward, which extends out the debt for a long time. So if you're concerned, Mr. Parks, about the budget constraints, which we all are, the propitious way to go forward is to continue what we've already begun.
After considerable discussion, council takes a verbal vote.
Madam Clerk, if you please do the vote on that, on the communication from the chair as moved by Mr. Labange.
Mr. Alacon.
Aye from Mr. Alacon.
Cardenas.
No.
Gruhl.
Same thing over. Same.
Han.
Yes.
Weezer.
Yes.
Labange.
Yes.
Parks.
No.
Perry. No. Reyes.
Yes.
Rosendahl.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Wesson.
Yes.
Zine.
No.
Garcetti.
Yes. That is a, what is the, if you can tabulate the vote, please?
It's 11 ayes.
11 ayes and 4
noes.
noes. That passes. Madam Clerk, if you'll inform the public as to what we just passed.
What just was adopted was the communication from the chair of Arts Parks Committee and also Mr. Parks' motion that was requesting a report on all the MICLA projects, and that report be referred to Budget and Finance Committee.
In direct English, the project then, with the help of GLASA, will go forward, and the matter now is not before us anymore. We move forward with the project as planned, as voted on the people of Los Angeles. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you all.
And joining us now by phone is District 6 Councilmember Tony Cardenas. Councilmember Cardenas, thanks for joining us on Council Week in Review.
Glad to be here, Jack.
After the vote on Wednesday, you released a statement referring to the use of the Freedom of Information Act, saying that even with that and the public getting records of the elephant exhibits at the zoo, politics still trumps the truth. What do you mean by that?
Well, what happened was we took a vote in the city council, and I voted for the pachyderm forest exhibit in 2006, but what I didn't know back then was that we have some tremendous medical records of some of the elephants we've had at our LA Zoo, and the fact that 14 elephants have died in our zoo most recently. And in addition to that, the zoo was not very forthcoming in 2006 in explaining to us all that is entailed when it comes to having a breeding program for elephants. And then what I know now is that in the last 10 years, 25 elephants were born in captivity in AZA-accredited zoos here in North America, and only 6 of them are alive today. So that doesn't paint a good picture for having a healthy program for elephants in zoos and in the LA Zoo.
That's other elephants, of course. Do you believe that Billy himself is now in danger now that it appears he'll be staying at the zoo?
Well, what was very disappointing, what happened in council is that a picture was taken of Billy in the last 30 days, and when we showed a blow-up picture of that in council so that people could see the interplay between the care that Billy's getting, the actual veterinarian that John Lewis, the director of the zoo, brought forth to say, this is the guy who checks up on Billy. And we asked him, my colleague Bill asked him, is this Billy's foot? And he never answered the question. That was very disturbing when just a minute earlier he said that he checks on Billy all the time. He knows him very well. He knows the elephant and is taking care of him. He couldn't even recognize a picture of him.
Of course, one of the arguments for going forward with the expansion is that it would actually cost more now to stop the project, true?
Oh, well, that's one thing that I don't agree with. I looked at the numbers, and much of the assumptions that were made were very one-sided. So I'm going to actually take the opportunity to tear that down and to be able to prove that those numbers were not true. We actually had the former CAO of LA County, come and testify to the council in December, and he explained unequivocally, and he said it more than once, it's very simply, council members, if you stop the project today, it is in no way more expensive to do that than if you continue with the project. And he said it in 3 different ways with his 30 years of experience, 9 years serving at the county high level, and he basically explained, look, no matter how you slice it, if you stop the project today, no way is it more expensive than if you continue.
So to be clear, your no vote was because you believe that zoos in general are just not the right place to house elephants.
Yeah, zoos that only have 1, 2, 3, 4 acres to house 1 or 5 or 10 elephants is just not adequate. The right place for elephants, the largest mammal to walk the earth, is a place where they have 10, 20, 50, 100 acres to walk in if you're going to have them fenced in. But to have them in just 2, 3 acres like the LA Zoo wants to have, we're going to see a disaster. And it's just, unfortunately, we're going to find out too late that we spent $42 million as a city of taxpayer money for something that's obsolete before it's even built.
Well, in fact, and finally, you mentioned at one time about creating an elephant sanctuary in the hills to the north of the San Fernando Valley. Is that still something you have an interest in?
Well, I would love to do that, but if the zoo spends $42 million on this exhibit and we find out that it's inadequate, I don't know if the people of Los Angeles are going to be wanting to put up with 1 penny more being spent for elephants right here in our backyard. So I hope that opportunity is still available, but I think that the public's going to be soured when they find out that this $42 million exhibit is basically Los Angeles' bridge to nowhere.
So is there a next step?
Well, the next step is for the Public Works to sign the contract on the last portion of the exhibit to finish it, and if that happens, then it looks like the exhibit's going to be built. So basically, it's at that level right now.
District 6 Councilmember Tony Cardenas, thank you for joining us on Council Week in Review. And joining us now is District 4 Councilmember Tom LaBonge. Mr. LaBonge, welcome to Council Week in Review.
Hey, Jack, call me Tom, and it's always great to be here.
Of course, this has been a busy week for you and Griffith Park. You were successful in getting the go-ahead for the expansion of the elephant exhibit. How long has the Pachyderm Forest been in the making, and what was the holdup all this time?
Well, there was an issue concerning it. It wasn't me. It was everybody. It was the zoo employees. It was the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association. It was the zoo administration. It was the Children of Los Angeles. It was the building trades. It was the Public Works interest that we had a project that was 30% underway and already cost to the city from 2 park bonds voted by the people of Los Angeles, a countywide park bond and then a citywide zoo bond, which had unprecedented 79% support, was called into question. The issues were discussed. There were several community hearings. Absolutely both peoples on both sides had great passion for the care of the elephant. It just, the belief is that we move forward with this project, and it's a wonderful day for the city of Los Angeles, and the people who work at the zoo, our employees, who are such great, passionate, dedicated, loving people.
You mentioned 2 different sources for the funding, of course, but that number kind of hangs in the air for a lot of people. I'm sure $42 million to complete the project, and I'm sure people are wondering, can the city really afford this kind of expenditure in the present climate?
Well, basically, these are bonds that the city and county voted on. One, a 1996 countywide park bond, and 2, a 1998 zoo bond specifically. So those are specific accounts. In addition to that, the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association has stepped to the plate to offset the cost to the general fund for the financing of this project in many, many millions of dollars. So this is a great public-private partnership that has been forged in this issue of this project. It is a lot of money, but it's been a space for a long time. Zoos are windows to the world. The educational conservation programs that are there are great. If we didn't have zoos, we would be lost as we see the beauty of animals, the beauty of birds, the beauty of all the animal kingdom.
This discussion over the winter about this whole project may have been the first time a lot of people have heard about the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association, GLAZA. How long have they been involved with the zoo?
They've been along well more than 30 years. It's not the first time. It's been a great time because it's solidified. They did polls. The Los Angeles Times endorsed completion of the project. The Daily News said if you started it, finish it. This is had great support from the people on polls. So you saw a lot of love of the zoo. People love the zoo. And some people, all people in this issue love animals, but some don't really feel strong. Some don't really feel strong. But the voices of the zoo were heard in this case, and I thank the members of council who voted on 11-4 basis to move forward with the project.
You've mentioned a couple of times already the incredible passion, the people who came from all over the city to get into the City Hall chambers, the people who go to the zoo, for goodness sake, every week and especially on weekends. This zoo is really crucial to the fabric of Los Angeles.
Well, it's about over 1.6 million people go to the Los Angeles Zoo and Griffith Park. The people who work there work very hard to improve the zoo. There's no question there have been challenges in the past, but in the last 10 years, and especially under the administration of John Lewis and Denise Ferret, the team that is there in management, the various heads of the department, Dr. Ng and the veterinary corps, and the individual keepers. Those are the people that I think turn the tide for the affirmative vote. They expressed their heart and soul as professional zookeepers that this is important and it should be built.
Obviously, as you know, Billy is an Asian elephant, but you mentioned John Lewis. I have literally, personally, with my own eyes, seen him in Kenya. He goes out and really studies the subject that he now presides over.
Well, they're all professionals, and the challenges of whether it's the 2.5 to 300,000 African elephants that are threatened in the continent of Africa, or the thousands that are threatened in Asia. If we don't have these centers to study them and to understand, if we don't engage with the children to understand the wildlife. They may see it on cartoons, even some may see it on the internet, but to see it live and in person, that is a very impressionable time, and it will keep them in their minds and hearts about how important the animal kingdom is, how important conservation is, how important the educational component of the zoo is.
Finally, with this vote now behind you in the council chambers, what happens next?
Well, the Board of Public Works will then let the contract, which was the original stop on the project. There was a contract that was supposed to go forward. That was the call to. We originally broke the contract up from the $42 million to spend money to fix Billy's temporary home right now, which was done, and it was the second phase that was held up. Now they'll continue to move forward, and we'll see change in early 2011 as soon as we can. I'm very anxious to take my jacket off, roll up my sleeves, help wherever I can to move this project along now.
Also, of course, this week, your beloved Griffith Park was approved to become a historical cultural monument. That's unusual. We don't usually think of a park as a monument.
Well, there are some. Echo Park, Mr. Garcetti made a great speech about that. Mr. Reyes in MacArthur Park, where he's very passionate about. I happen to be passionate about Griffith Park, and it is wonderful. And so many people love the park. This will be a protective measure for the park that it will continue to enhance this beautiful 4,212-acre heart of the city of Los Angeles. I hike in it every morning. This year has been exceptionally beautiful sunrises. Before the time changes here in spring, come up hiking in Griffith Park. I'm there at 5:45 any morning. Charlie Turner Trail, head north into the observatory parking lot. Come up to Mount Hollywood and you'll be closer to heaven.
As a practical matter, what will this designation actually do for the park? For example, will there be some restrictions on what can happen or what can be built inside the park?
Oh, certainly we'll have that oversight and review by our Cultural Heritage Department, our Preservation Department. They'll review it. There are still some things the Department of Water and Power, which is a great agency providing water, has what they call the river supply conduit, a big trunk line through there. That will proceed without problem, but you won't see wholesale changes at all. Whatever comes forth, the Historic Preservation Board will review it. I know I talked to Van Griffin about it because I had some interest about ball fields. He said he's for ball fields. We'll go through the process. The community will be involved. I know there's an interest in a gym somewhere in the Griffith Park area. I don't want to see it in the park proper, but if there's some discussion, let's have it, and there'll be a public process. And the preservation issue will be looked at first and foremost.
Does the designation apply to the entire park? For example, I think the zoo is not full of all these
restrictions. The zoo is exempt because that's post-1960. If you look at a monument, they really say 50 years. The archery is exempt. Toyon Canyon landfill, which is acreage controlled by the Bureau of Sanitation. It's not a landfill at present. It was. They're still transforming that back into nature. That is exempt. The freeway, which was taken part of Griffith Park in the mid-50s, is exempt because it's state property. But most everything you'll see will remain the same. If there's any changes, there'll be a process that there'll be full public scrutiny and full Department of Planning, Office of Historic Preservation scrutiny to make sure it does the right thing for the park.
And of course, also the Autry Museum is not part of that designation either, as I understand it. But go back to Toyon Canyon, if you would, for just a moment, Councilman.
Right.
As you know, there's been considerable discussion there. Over the years, people have wanted to put up a theme hotel or some other kinds of buildings there. And would this stop that kind of planning?
Oh, it absolutely. But I think before that would even come to be it, I think the community would stop it. But before the community would stop it, I would stop it. I rejected the concepts that were in the draft master plan, and there was some thought for an eco hotel, if you will, or a youth hostel in that area. I worked with the community, in particular, about possible sports fields. That was rejected by the community. We're working on areas in the Crystal Spring area right now, which will again be a process. But originally, I was looking to copy what they did in Glendale with their landfills that built sports fields and that. But it made sense to keep it natural, and it will remain natural, and it will transform. I hope one day there will be an area to picnic, so up in Toyon, because the views are great. But there will be a process, and they'll want to make sure everything's safe up there, because it was a city landfill for many, many years, from 1957 to 1987.
You've mentioned ball fields, and you've also got the golf course there. Would you keep those together so that you wouldn't be intruding into other wildland parts of the park?
Well, yeah, certainly. I think everything that's wild now will stay wild, absolutely. And I think the golf is one of the most popular activities, and it will remain the same. But if there was any discussion about that in the future, and I mean in the far future, if golf wasn't popular, there would be a process to deal with that. But I think golf is very popular and will remain popular. I know Councilman Wesson will come after me real good if anything happens to the golf courses, as well as all the golfers in the city. They're here to be protected as well. That's where Babe Ruth was, Jack, when he got traded from the Boston to the Yankees. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, it's part of the great history book by Mike Eberts on Griffith Park history, available at Skyline Books right there in Los Feliz on Vermont Avenue, across from Fred 62 at Russell in Vermont
Very
Avenue.
good. I happen to have Mike's book. I'll go look that section up
You
again.
know what?
Finally,
I'm going to get it for you, because you
Oh, I
do
have it.
so
No, I
well.
have it.
You got the book?
Absolutely, I have it.
Okay,
Have it
good.
at home.
Look that up.
Now, if anybody wants to talk to you about the zoo or anything else, of course, you can be seen in your office, the best view in the world, 5:45 every weekday morning.
Well, no, it's not my office. It's our great park on Griffith Park. Any day, come hike it in the park. And it's a special time. The park is coming back from that fire of 2005. And the Los Angeles City Fire Department, with help of the county and other municipalities, did a great job in May of 2007. And the park is coming back naturally. We do need work to do with the Bird Sanctuary Trail. We need you to work at Fern Canyon. Dante's is coming back beautifully. And we're looking for the Conservation Corps to help us with Captain's Roost, which was destroyed 100% almost, and it's coming back. We have opportunities for volunteerism. Call our office, 485-3337. Ask for my great deputy, Julian Calvin Harris, who is a wonderful person who has helped coordinate these efforts. And the second Saturday every month we have a program to help enhance the restoration of Griffith Park. I do want to put a shout out for Victoria Principal, who was the principal donation in the beginning of this restoration project with a large grant for tree work. We planted an oak tree, the principal tree of restoration of the park by the old merry-go-round some months ago, and it's coming along just fine.
Wonderful. Thanks for the update. Tom
Thank
LaBonge,
you.
District 4 Council Member, thanks for joining us on Council Week in Review.
You betcha, Jack.
Of course, we thank both of our guests for their participation on Council Week in Review. LA City View is the government access cable channel for the City of Los Angeles, featuring live coverage of City Council meetings and programming about City Department services and events. You can watch City Council meetings live or view past meetings by going to the city's website at lacity.org and follow the instructions for video on demand. And we invite you to address the Los Angeles City Council on any item on the council agenda, as well as during public comment. You may come downtown to City Hall or go to the Van Nuys City Hall and participate via video teleconferencing. And remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings, also beginning at 10 a.m. Council Week in Review can be seen Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m., and on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Well, that concludes our program for the week ending January 30th, 2009. On behalf of Randy Cox and everyone here at Channel 35, I'm Jack Popejoy. Thank you for watching, and please join us for the next Council Week in Review.
sometimes things don't always go as planned. Except when you vote. You can be assured when you vote on Election Day using InkaVote Plus, you won't accidentally vote a blank ballot, and the reader will check your ballot for overvotes. You can count on your ballot being accurate. It's nice to know some things do go as planned.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
morning. This is a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. Today is Wednesday, February 4th, 2009. We are still awaiting a quorum. Council meets Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the first Friday of the month. Being this Friday as well, we will be at the Van Nuys City Hall, and we encourage people to participate. Meetings do start called for 10 o'clock. Again, thank you to Council members Cardenas, Huizar, Labange, Perry, Smith, Weiss, and Zine. We would ask that Council members Alarcon, Hahn, Parks, Reyes, and Wesson please make their way to the Council chambers so we can have a quorum and start this meeting. Thank you.
Which members are here?
Cardenas, Gruel, Huizar, Labange, Perry, Smith, Weiss, and Zine. You're welcome, Mr. Cardenas. Our last quorum call. Otherwise, we will entertain motions for adjournment. Please ask Council members Alarcon, Hahn, Parks, Reyes, and Wesson to please make their way to Council chambers. I do know the committee has ended to please make their way downstairs. We need one more council member for a quorum. It is now 10:20. Council members Alarcon, Hahn, Parks, and Wesson. Mr. Wesson is here. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Smith moves. Mr. Wesson seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Those will be approved.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Madam President, there is a request to continue item number 35 to February 17th.
Without objection, that will be continued to February 17th.
First items on the agenda are items noticed for public hearings. Items 1 through 6 are street lighting district hearings, and the recommendation for council action is to open the hearing and continue the hearings and ordinance to be presented on February 25th.
Seeing no opposition to that, that will be the order.
Next items are also public hearing items. They're building and safety items. The first group is items 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and 16. And the recommendation on those are to receive and file inasmuch as the liens have been paid. And on
Ms.
number
Hahn.
11, there was an ownership change is the reason for receiving and filing that one.
Thank you. We do have a card on item number 12, so we will call that one special. Are there any other specials, colleagues? Any other specials? If not, Madam Clerk, those items that you put forward will be the order and the reports that have been outlined. If you could open the roll on those items, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
Thank you.
And then those would also include the items, there was also confirmation of liens, and those are 8, 10, 12 has a card, so that would be 8, 10, 14, and 17, and 18.
Thank you. And we actually do have a card on item number 17, so that item will also be called special.
And again, those are 8, 10, 14, and 18.
Any specials, colleagues, on those items? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
Thank you. Next items?
Next item is item number 19, also a public hearing item, and that is motion for public convenience or necessity in Council District 9, and the recommendation is to grant the application.
That will be the order. Madam Clerk, please open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
Thank you.
Next items, Madam President, are items for which public hearings have been held, items 20 through 34. Item number 20 is the Commissioner. Do you wish to hold that on the desk?
We will hold item 20 on the desk.
And that would leave 21 through 34. 21 through 23 are ordinances. Do you wish to hold those? I believe 12 will be present today.
Yes, we will hold those on the desk.
And then also, just for council's information, on item number 25, a report has been submitted, and correction on the fiscal impact statement, it should be 11.5 million on that one.
Okay, we do have cards as well on items 27 and 28, which will be
And
called
those
special.
already have had public hearings.
They have had public hearings.
Yes,
Okay.
they have.
Thank you, unless someone calls those special. And if we could, Ms. Hahn has been here, so we want to make sure she was counted as a vote. Ms. Hahn is here on all the items we've had. She's been here.
And also, I believe on item number 27, an amendment is in the works, and that is in the process. So do you wish to hold that on the desk?
We will hold item 27 on the desk. So if I'm correct, that means item 20 and 27 are being held on the desk, as well as 21, 22, and 23, which are ordinances. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the remainder of our items are before us. Colleagues, any other specials? Any other specials? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on those items, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. And ask that item number 34 go forthwith. Next items.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 35 through 44. 10 votes are required for consideration.
We do have cards on item 35, 37, and 45. I do see a note that we're referring number 37 back to Public Works.
Yes, that is the request on that item.
Thank you. And 38 we do have a card on as well.
And also, I believe there's a request on 35 to continue that. That was already taken care of at the beginning of the meeting to February 17th.
Okay. So, colleagues, the items that are now before us are there's one that has been called special, which is item number 38, 35, and 37. 35 is continued to the 17th, and 37 will go back to the Public Works Committee. Any other specials, colleagues? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the remaining items, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Next items?
Next items, Madam President, are the closed session items 45 through 50. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Those will be held on the desk.
And since there are 12 council members now, do you wish to take the ordinances, which would be 21, 22, and 23?
That will be the order. Any specials? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on those three items, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you.
Do you wish to take a public comment at this time, Madam President?
Yes, we'll take public comment, and then we will go to our commissioner. I'd like to call the following individuals up for public comment. The first will be Clyde Williams. After Mr. Williams will be Chuck Tenon, followed by Zuma Dog and Olga Hall. Those will be the first four. Mr. Williams.
Good morning. My name is Clyde Williams. I live at 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, CD 14. The campaign season has begun for March 3rd. Everyone needs to vote for this most important election. Now, part of it is for the controller and the attorney. I would hope that the existing one before they go out and the new ones when they come in will investigate the LA City ANC Autry National Center's lease agreement, in which more than 50 specific requirements have not been complied with for more than 20 years. Why haven't the current attorney and the controller reviewed this lease agreement? We need to make a new lease agreement, which is conditioned based upon the fact that the Autry hasn't complied with any of their previous lease agreements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and thank you for being at the Neighborhood Council session on Saturday. It was great on transportation. Mr. Tenon.
Council President Gruhl and council members, Chuck Tenon. The role of our city leaders is to make our government system work for the people in housing, transportation, development, commerce and trade, provide city services, enforce the laws, and a safer place to live. What we need is a change in our city. What we don't need is another 2008. And don't wait for the federal stimulus package to bail us out. Our leaders need to come up with our own version of a citywide, creative, incentive stimulus package to move the city forward and to make the city work for all of us. That's change, challenge, and commitment, and it starts with you and me. Our city leaders can come up with new, creative ways for budget funding. People made the impossible possible for thousands of years, and we, the people, built this city for the people as well as this nation. Our city cries 1,000 tears every time a child dies. It's a line from an upcoming song project, Stop the Violence, We Can All Live in Peace. The song is like Janice Hahn, and so is the message. One of a kind, and there will never be another one. Both the song and Janice Hahn. Every day we hear about violence in our city, and another child's life is taken. We need more programs for the kids who are the future of the city. Janice Hahn reaches out every day of her life for gang prevention and to end violence. As a city servant, she follows in the footsteps of her great father, Kenny Hahn, who left a legacy in the city. Support Janice Hahn's song project to deliver a song message, stop violence, and save a kid's life and give them a chance. Help her to lead the way. One final note, Wendy Gruhl will face many challenges as a city controller, but she'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tenen. Zuma Dog, followed by Olga Hall, followed by Arnold Sachs.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm slightly disappointed because I see that Councilmember Jack Weiss, he's running for city attorney. We got important business. I don't see him in the room, but his name is on the quorum roll, and I happen to know you already voted on some ordinances. Can I please wait until Jack Weiss gets here since his name is on here? That's a rhetorical question. But for the record, Jack Weiss is not in the room with the quorum, his name on there. My name is Zuma Dog. In case you're just moving to the city of Los Angeles, I'm running for mayor of Los Angeles. And I'd like to say thank you to the police officer. When I came in the building, they say, "Oh, Mayor Zuma." I say, "We could only hope so, for the sake of all humanity." Please vote for Zuma Dog. The absentee ballots are in the mail. First thing I will do is implement Dr. Deming's 14-point quality management blueprint, implemented right here at City Hall. There's too much fraud, waste, and abuse. Okay, here's a great example. This is how you will benefit by Zuma Dog as mayor, implementing Deming's 14 points. What's the biggest problem for most people when you poll them? They say traffic congestion. Yesterday, City Council had short-term strategy sessions for how to reduce traffic congestion. However, Zuma Dog is here to say that the biggest problem that is easily preventable is actually caused by the city. What has happened, people, left-hand turn signals all through the city have been auto sensors. They have auto sensors installed. However, they do not work. They don't work. You get about one car that gets to go through. The timing sensors are off. So all through the city, you have situations on left-hand turns where one car gets to go through. Pedestrians do not have time to cross. And then other cars just continue to go through the red lights. So I've already spoken too much about this, but traffic's number one. And it's because of the lack of commitment to the 14 points. Look on Google, if I can have your attention, Dr. Deming. If I go down in history for one thing, I have raised awareness that we must embrace the 14 points of Dr. Deming to prevent this type of fraud, waste, and abuse. ZumaDogForMayor.com.
Ms. Olga Hall, followed by Arnold Sachs, followed by Richard Robinson.
Good morning, Councilman Gruhl and councilman members. The Southwest Museum is part of CD 14, Councilman Jose Wizard's district. It is a sad situation for CD 14 and for the city of Los Angeles. Councilman Wizard doesn't show any interest in protecting the Southwest Museum, a historical treasure and icon in his district. If the Southwest Museum was in Councilman Lamonte's district, he would be up in arms fighting to protect it and preserve it. I am sure most of you would do the same. You all know the great value of the Southwest Museum. So what do you do with a council member that does not show any interest in protecting the Southwest Museum as a full-fledged museum? The only time he talks about it is to repeat the words of the Autry, who their only interest is to benefit the Autry by robbing the Southwest Museum of its artifacts to make the museum a real museum. Councilman Cardenas crossed district lines when he became the voice of Billy. He believed Billy should have a better life. Many of you might think he lost this fight. I do not think so. Billy's life will be better because of Councilman Cardenas. He made us all aware of Billy's plight and the weakness of the LA Zoo in taking care of the elephants. Now, they will have to do their best to make sure Billy will not be another casualty. They are in check. So I call this winning. Coming back to the Southwest Museum, I must remind you that this icon belongs to all Angelinos. And if Councilman Jose Wizard does not have any interest in protecting it, this is the time when you are all called to cross those district lines and do his job by saving the Southwest Museum as a world-renowned museum.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs, followed by Richard Robinson, followed by Gary Schlossberg.
Yes, good morning, City Council. Arnold Sachs. I'd like to talk about a few things today. Measure B, the solar initiative. If you've been following the newspaper, the Rush Solar Plan has a history. February of 2008, when it was first discussed. The new commissioner came before the board And he failed to mention that he had any inkling or any meeting about the solar briefing a year ago. In an article in the LA Times, solar critic later says he's sorry. And this is a problem with why you should turn down Initiative B. It states, on Monday, DWP officials disclosed that up to one-third of the panels proposed in Measure B could be, didn't say would be, could be installed on 4,000 acres of airport property in Palmdale. Which begs you to ask, if DWP wants to own the panels and the electricity, if they install the panels on LAWA property, does that mean they take ownership of the property? Because they'll have the panels on them. That'll be a joke. Finally, the DWP is offering up their explanation through an outside agency. Never mind the agency that said the plan sinking faster than the Titanic. I'd also like to comment that Gina Marie Lindsay, the CEO, the executive officer of at LAWA, recently spoke at the South Bay Council of Governance in the South Bay. She mentioned that LAWA had just recently passed a bond for $950 million this past summer. But she failed to disclose that the city of LA had also passed a bond for $950 million back when the first renovations were discussed at LAWA. That concerns me, how you would miss out on a $950 million bond issue. What is happening at LAWA?
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Our next speaker is Richard Robinson. Mr. Robinson, Gary Schlossberg will follow Mr. Robinson.
Madam President, members, Richard Robinson. Ma'am, when Councilman Reyes, through the chair, was chief deputy in former Councilman Hernandez's office, I suggested the neighborhood family centers, neighborhood recreation centers, swimming pools, baseball diamonds, basketball courts be built. Now that power has been thrust upon President Obama, the next 8 years can be utilized to bring tax increases needed to return social service programs to funding levels that have not existed since former Mayor Bradley and former Supervisor Kenneth Hahn fought to give human service meaning. Former Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said, "Taxes are the price we pay for a civilized society." Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schlossberg?
Hi, good morning. Gary Schlossberg. I'm a candidate for City Council for Council District 13, the seat currently occupied by Council President Eric Garcetti. I come before you today to offer two policy proposals, which I hope the City Council can work on now, but if they don't, when I get elected, I plan to work on myself. The first is to propose a moratorium on digital billboards and to put that on the ballot so the voters can decide. I'm not sure what the next election is when that can occur. If it can happen on the May 19th election, I think that would be wonderful. The current 3-month moratorium, which ends just after the March election, is simply not sufficient to address the problem. I think it's suspect that it, of course, ends right after the local election. Digital billboards present problems with visual blight, traffic hazards, as well as energy issues when the city desperately needs to conserve its energy. So let's let the voters decide. They might agree with me, they might not, but let's let them be the ones to decide. The second proposal is a renewed request to the City Council to mandate that candidates for City Council participate in debates. This is not a radical idea to suggest that an incumbent and a challenger have an opportunity to discuss the ideas in an open public forum. Currently, the current requirement that says that if you accept public matching funds, you must participate in debate, that simply is not sufficient. For if you are an incumbent who can raise substantial funds, it is very easy to opt out of that public matching system and not participate in any discourse with your opponent. This is bad for the voters, it's bad for the public, it's bad for the city. The voters in my district quite clearly have told me time and time again as I've walked door to door, they would like to see a debate between myself and my opponent, Eric Garcetti. Let's have it. My question is, what is he afraid of? What is he trying to hide? What question does he not want to answer? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney or Mr. Alarcon?
I would just ponder a question, what if nobody runs against the candidate?
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. All right, our next item, next order of business.
Next item, Madam President, is item number 20, and that's confirmation of Mr. Jaime Rodriguez to the Board of Transportation Commissioners.
If I can invite Mr. Rodriguez to the middle table. And our first speaker will be Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And it is such a pleasure and an honor to have Mr. Rodriguez here today, who will be a new Transportation Commissioner. And I think you have your family with you today as well. He's someone who's grown up here in Los Angeles, and as we had a chance to meet, very interested in the issue of public transportation and the importance of it. When you look at his resume and the schools he's been to and the accomplishments that he's had, it's really quite incredible. We had a chance to talk about working together on one of the most important issues in Los Angeles. I was up in, actually, Mr. Smith, your district in Granada Hills last night, and we talked about the challenge of getting from Granada Hills to the west side. There aren't many options for them other than a bus that might take them 3 hours. So the kinds of issues that are important as we look at a strategic plan, but this is an excellent appointment by the mayor. You're going to be a great asset for the city, and appreciate your willingness to serve. If you'd like, before, maybe if any of my other colleagues have questions, maybe just to give a brief statement about your interest in serving on the Transportation Commission.
Thank you, Councilmember Gruhl. My name is Jaime Rodriguez. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Los Angeles. I currently live in Silver Lake. I was born in Hollywood and raised in the Mount Washington area. Throughout my life here in the city of LA, I've dealt with long commutes, whether it was driving from Mount Washington to my high school, Loyola, located on Van Ness between Vermont and Normandy, for a time from my parents' house in Tahunga to my office in downtown, to today where I commute from Silver Lake to my office in Westchester. So I definitely know about the city's needs when it comes to transportation issues. On a professional note, before I arrived at my current employer, I worked at Paul Hastings and Milbank Tweed on infrastructure projects, including transportation projects. So I'm familiar with private-public partnerships, and I look forward to using those experiences and my skills and my capacity as a commissioner and serving the city of LA.
For that, and you can see that he really has a commitment, and talked about when we met about him taking the bus and transportation early on in his life, and his proud parents that are here with him today. Madam Clerk, I ask for a unanimous vote today in support of this commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gruhl. Mr. LaBonge is our next speaker.
I just want to stand and congratulate you. I think when you articulated your youth and where you've lived, you've traveled the routes of many places. When you spoke when you went to Loyola, I remember when I worked on Vermont as a kid, I'd take the bus down to Venice.
The 33. Yeah.
Right. And the 95 bus, I don't know, they changed the numbers probably in the time you went to school. But I think we have a candidate who is a great commissioner, past serving as well on another commission now on transportation. It is about transportation. If I could give you one challenge to do, work with the police commission to try to integrate some things, and I hope Harry listens to this over there, that the police department focus on traffic issues as well. Public safety is number one, but traffic is what irritates much of the community. So working out and finding a fellow commissioner on the police commission to see what we could do jointly on areas of concern. Thank you for your service to the city of Los Angeles. Go Cubs.
Go Cubs. Thank you, Councilmember LaBonge.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Mr. Zine.
Yeah, Mr. Rodriguez, I'd just like to know why the paparazzi's following you. There's paparazzi over here who's following you. You haven't been confirmed, you've already got paparazzi on your case. That's your mom and dad?
Yes, yes, sir.
Obviously very proud to see you here today with your son.
I'm very proud of them, too.
They're proud of you, you're proud of them. Anyway, I just want to wish you congratulations on that. It's nice to see the parents coming out and seeing you with this arena and this support from the City Council in a very important position as my colleague, Councilmember Gruhl, knows traffic's a mess in Los Angeles, and transportation is a key factor in trying to clean up that mess. So hopefully you'll be able to help make some changes so we can all get to work in a quicker period of time and not find the frustration that many of us find in Los Angeles with the transportation gridlock that we see. So to the paparazzi, your mom and dad, thank you for being here, and congratulations to you on this wonderful accomplishment. This is your first commission assignment?
It's my second one.
What
I
was
on
that?
the Relocation Appeals Board.
Okay. How'd you do on that?
We actually never met, so it's
right.
a good thing for the CRA.
Well, this one I'm sure you'll meet.
Yes.
And since the mayor tapped you for that, they're a very important commission. And as it seems, people get on commissions and they go up the ladder to the other commissions within the city of Los Angeles. So congratulations to you, and congratulations to Mom and Dad. You did a good job. The results are right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Nye.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Mr. Reyes.
And first, I want to congratulate you, Mr. Rodriguez, and your parents for such a great job. But I also want to ask you, in the challenges of the transit dependent, and looking at this role of a transportation commissioner, what ideas or what concepts or what goals do you have in addressing the needs of the transit dependent who are in Los Angeles? We see that some of our bus stops and our bus shelters are very dirty. We know that's the MTA that has that charge, but we also have a city family supposed to be taking care of these sidewalks. We know that we have a dire need for dashes and local circulators to address these gaps that exist that make it inconvenient to use the bus. So I just want to get a sense of your perspective of how you see your role as a commissioner in addressing these types of challenges.
Thank you. I know these are definitely tough economic times for the city and for agencies like the MTA and our own Department of Transportation. But I think we have to find a balance between commuters who take cars and the people who ride public transit, and with the goal being to encourage more people, I think, to use public transit. That's a pretty difficult prospect in the city of LA given the layout of the city. But by improving those services, by improving access, like you said, to improving bus stop facilities, bus stations, providing more effective bus schedules. I think the MTA did a wonderful job in the Valley with the rapid with the Orange Line, with the rapid bus lanes on Wilshire, ideas like that. From a financial perspective, like I said, I have experience working on public-private partnerships, so maybe bringing in some private companies to work with the city and with our agencies to improve services.
I have seen buses that DOT, Department of Transportation, contracts for the very nice big buses, air-conditioned, and they go to the outlying neighborhoods, outlying suburbs, out of the city to get folks from the inner city out. And yet I see how many folks actually riding these buses, and they're not very that full, actually.
Right.
And yet we're told that we don't have enough money for circulators and dashes in the parts where there's a lot of density, where there's high levels of transit dependency. That's an area I would hope you could explore, and maybe in the next few months, if we can get together, I'd like to find out what is really going on with our priorities when we start spending funds for these big luxury air-conditioned buses, and yet in the parts where you are very transit dependent, we don't seem to have any money for local circulators and shuttles that would help the transit dependent. But on another subject, which is very important and something I've been focused on for some time now, are the opportunities for bicyclists, and looking at the notion of creating bicycle boulevards and stops that cyclists can come and change and park their bikes knowing it's secure, and giving a higher priority for bicyclists. Can you give me a perspective on how you see that whole group of an alternative transportation mode?
Sure. I went to law school back east in Boston, and I think in that city they had much friendlier bicycle policies. I think the primary thing when it comes to bicyclists is focusing on their safety. We've had some issues in the city in the past where I think bicyclists don't really feel that safe on our streets. So I'd like to see more bicycle lanes, and even maybe roads dedicated to bicyclists. and that's something I definitely want to look into.
Well, there's one more phase of a bicycle path we want to complete from Fletcher all the way down to the Pasadena Freeway along the riverbank. And I really feel that the LA Rivers corridor and its service maintenance roads can double also as a bike path and get people from San Fernando Valley all the way through downtown without getting hit by a car. And it's a system that I believe has a higher level of credibility given the price of gas, given its safety, if we give it a sense of importance. So that's an area I hope as a commissioner you can explore as well. So I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. And hopefully the commission will meet more often than your previous commission. And we'll be able to see some real changes. So thank you for stewardship and your volunteerism and your concern for our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you too.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Alarcon.
Nobody knows the rules. You get in trouble. As I was observing your presentation, I was informed by these two people here that you're a good guy. And I said, I looked up and I said, yeah, and she said, yeah, that's my son. And I said, well, he better be a good guy because he's replacing my daughter on this commission. And as she was moved over to another commission. I think it's very special that your parents have come here. I think that the service that commissioners provide to the city of Los Angeles is often not recognized as the volunteer service that it is. But to hear your mother say that you love Los Angeles was very special because I think far too many people want to complain about Los Angeles, but they don't want to get in and help. And so that's something that I take note of. Jaime, we have a lot of issues related to transportation. I think it's second to public safety and included in the concept of public safety is transportation clearly, but it's a massive problem. A couple of things that I want you to take note of. As the chair of the committee that oversees the neighborhood council system, I would like to urge you to establish better communication with the neighborhood council system. It's a new form of democracy in our city. It's still coming into shape, and one of the methods that they have used to establish better relationships with the departments is to use a memorandum of understanding. So the Department of Transportation is developing that memorandum of understanding with the neighborhood councils. I urge you to support that and to encourage it and to make the neighborhood councils feel that they are truly part of our system. Secondly, we are in an interesting position. The president has done, I think, a remarkable job in the last 2 weeks, but most significantly is his effort to create jobs. And it's going to fall right in your bailiwick in terms of the projects that we have identified that are ready, shovel-ready, as they ask for. But the problem is that the projects that are shovel-ready aren't necessarily the projects that are prioritized in terms of the greatest need. They're just the ones that are shovel-ready. I would ask that as you move those projects forward that are selected by the federal government, that we at the same time try to have a sense of equity in terms of the needs of all throughout Los Angeles so that we can offer something to everybody, even though there may be areas that get more federal funding than others simply because their projects are ready to go. So I would just offer those two suggestions, and I'm not going to vote against you with your parents standing behind me.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. Thank you very much. There are no further speakers in the queue, so Madam Clerk, if you would please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's our... Madam Clerk, our next order of business.
Madam President, I believe there were still some cards that were inadvertently placed under a different item number. I think there were some cards still from Van Nuys. Do you wish to go back to the public comment?
Okay, great. Let's do that then. They were placed under item 45. Sean Murphy out in Van Nuys.
Good morning. Good morning. I can't believe the way this city council's run today. It's another dog and pony show. You should have continued with public comment first before going to the other thing. I am angry the way the city is being run. Our current mayor is up in Washington, D.C., getting revenue, getting more money for transportation. He should get some more money fixing the streets, damn it!
Okay, sir, if you can please refrain from using profanity. Thank you very much.
Oh, the way you people do weird, unusual things. The way you do things, it's not right. The way you do things is not right. We need a new mayor now.
Miriam Fogler is our next speaker out in Van Nuys.
Well, the public and you people represent all the consensus of all the corruption that's going on, pervading. And it's no wonder that you got a gentleman back here is upset. I understand how he feels, but you got to understand it's not just one person, it's everybody here. And I'm asking God to intervene and hope to God. I don't care what that lawyer O'Connell says, but God will intervene. You can't do nothing about it. Because you're all going to be judged on Judgment Day, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't get away from God. There's no way. So if you know what you're doing and you know you're doing wrong, you better realize it, because you're going to have to be answering to all what you're doing on Judgment Day. So I'm just letting you know that even people out there are not doing the right things. You know, people who are pedestrians don't even walk the streets right. If you think that pedestrians have no right, Zuma, there are people that are not watching the cars when they're crossing the street. There are people who jaywalk, and there's people who step down too soon. And you gotta let cars clear the intersection. You gotta let people move around. You can't just hold everybody back and let only pedestrians walk across the street. And I think the arrows are working very well. The point is that people just don't obey the laws. And if you don't have that, then you're gonna have chaos. And you gotta have control here. With yourselves. You got to stop your chaos here at City Hall, because people are going to go chaos too. And we're going to all be losing control. It's going to be real bad for everybody. So just stop your shenanigans that you're doing down here at City Hall. And stop it now. Stop this Prop R, half-cent sales tax in July. The state had no right to put that on the ballot. The County of Los Angeles Board of Supervisors had no right to put that on the ballot. To add more tax, this is not right. And the Republican way is not raising taxes, but increasing people to invest, not digressing and making them pay more taxes.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Rick Nightingale out in Van Nuys.
Yes, good morning. I couldn't believe I read the paper again yesterday. Where does the city become a loan agency? I just don't understand it, where you turn around and we're hard up for money. The banks did the same thing. Then it went to Congress and so forth with Fannie Mae. And now the city has turned around and is going to loan money to people to help them buy a house and so forth at no interest. So you don't have any money, but you're going to loan money. They can't afford to buy the house, so you're going to loan money. So how are they going to afford two separate payments? I just don't understand this. I mean, you people it's just unbelievable. I just don't understand it. That you people can do these things, and the public, you people's going to have to get up and riot on this thing. That's the only thing that you understand, is when somebody gets up and they protest and they dang near a riot, then it opens your eyes. Except for that, you can care less about the public people. I realize people need help, but we all sacrificed to buy our first house. We just did. The family helps you or whatever. You sell something that you really treasure to turn around and sacrifice to buy the first house. But I don't see why it has to come down on the public to turn around and support buying somebody a first house. Especially when you say now you're going to have two separate bills. Now you tell me how that can possibly be. I'll tell you, you people that turns around, and I hate to say it, I don't like to be Democrat, Republican, but every time that you're going to give everything away, it seems like the Democrats want to give everything away, and nobody has to deserve it, earn it, or otherwise, that you're going to be the good old people and support them. I just don't understand. You people better wake up and vote the way it should be. And I want to thank, excuse me, Ms. Gruhl for taking us before the commissioner, and then it changed. It was very rude. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Donna Pearman in Van Nuys.
Yes, I also agree that I thank Wendy Gruhl, but I'm sorry, Ms. Perry, that that you didn't take Van Nuys first. Anyway, today's a special day. My dad's birthday and Eric Garcetti's birthday. So happy birthday to Mr. Garcetti, wherever you are. Anyway, I won't be in Van Nuys on Friday. I'll be out of state. Anyway, I didn't forget about the CRA. Whether continuing projects, I see closed down business with CRA sign. Is it possible that CRA bought them out? Okay, I know they are looking for the MTA projects with Prop R. It's not fair. That Prop R is not fair for the disabled who can't easily get on to the buses. So it's not fair that they put them on with the sales tax. An excuse to put in CRA projects, the Prop R. They take over, then they take our tax increment money, leaving us in the lurch. That's why we have to increase 1.5 increases on our sales tax for transportation, including previous increases. But the bad part is they don't have a sunset clause. Means we have to pay forever. They will probably ask for another increase, and one way or another, probably the MTA bus fare raise. Toll lanes are not fair, especially for the disabled. And if they don't get enough money, the road could be sold to a private entrepreneur. How can you make people go on buses and you stay in your cars, and your staff too, 95% of the time, and some 100% of the time? Vote for Zuma Dog for mayor, Noel Weiss for city attorney, not Jack Weiss. He's out for our interests, and vote for Laura Check. And you got to stop doing all these increases. City council is not doing right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perriman, and my apologies to the Valley residents. Unfortunately, the yellow cards that were given to me, they had typed the names on, and it looked like they were blank. So my error in not identifying that in the yellow cards that we had today, because they were there, but it looked like they were blank by just the typing they put on them. So thank you for your patience on that. Madam Clerk, next item.
Next item, Madam President, is item number 12, and that was called special for cards.
Yes, Mr. Clyde Williams and Mr. Zuma Dog.
Good morning. My name is Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, CD 14. Equitable application of the law. The liens against various areas based upon the building and safety requirements are great. However, why should they be applied when the Autry National Center's lease agreement for 20 years has never been subject to audit or to review? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Zuma Dog?
Yes, thank you. And I will be paying close attention to stay on topic. I'd like the city attorney to know, but this will be tying into REAP. Okay, we know that my big issue is the rent escrow accounting program, how it's being retaliatory and vindictive against landlords, which then have to pass the bad treatment down to their renters. And then what happens is the building owners end up having to sell these buildings with all the low-income rent control people living in it. Then they're forced out into the streets. So this here, people, here are the three processes of how you lose your building to a connected city developer. First, as we see on the agenda, maintenance and improvements. So first what the city will do in their vindictive retaliatory treatment of these building owners. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to build the picture here. First is the maintenance and improvements. Then we come to this one, liens. Okay, you don't make the improvements. Now the city is slapping liens on your building. This one here for $17,000. So what we will be seeing next is these properties under the REAP program. Rent escrow accounting. And that's when they say, you're bad landlords because you didn't do what we said, even though many times it's for aesthetic, non-safety related issues. And I'm here to say that I'm seeing a lot more of it. And just to sum it all up, in an attempt for the city to take over properties that is renting to low-income renters, to convert them into luxury condos and giving these buildings to the connected developers, first they demand you make these aesthetic improvements. Then they slap you under these liens. Then you end up on REAP. then you can't afford all this this hassle. It becomes way too expensive.
This is not regarding REAP. This is a building and safety lien.
But it's liens. Okay, then I personally think that this is the liens first, then REAP, then they can't comply. These are all things the city does so that the property owner has to sell it to the developer, and then people are pushed out on the streets. ZumaDogForMayor.com will be addressing this issue.
Thank you very much. That closes public hearing on that item. Public comment, Madam Clerk, if you could please. I'm sorry, Rick Nightingale's we just got his. Mr. Nightingale, out in the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, good morning. On this REAP, my family owns a building.
Excuse me, Madam President, this is not a REAP. This is a building and safety lien.
I realize, but it's still like Zuma Dog turned around. It all revolves around the same thing. I don't know, city attorney, if you own any buildings and so forth, but I went through the same thing. And it does not go to the people that rent from us. The city turns around, does inspections, they mail things to you, and you have no idea sometimes when you get it or not. And then it turns around, and if you don't get it taken care of in a certain amount of time, and they turn around and put a lien on it or otherwise. But then they don't even work with you regarding this.
Get closer to the mic.
They don't even rework with you sometimes with this. We had to go downtown and we had to fight them so well because they kept adding on the money to the liens until we finally says, we want a hearing. And they said, oh, okay, now we'll stop the liens because we'll stop how much you're going to owe us. We went from $150 to $2,500, and I finally turned around and went down there because my father couldn't, and we finally took care of it. But it took 5 hearings to go down there and take care of this situation. So I feel sorry for it, and don't get me wrong, a lot of buildings are really bad, and the city has done a very good job of going through and checking them. But then when it gets to the office, it gets very, very complicated.
Madam President, this is regarding a lien at 2244 West Fargo Street. The speaker is way off topic.
Thank you, Mr. Nightingale. Do you want to finish?
Well, I don't want to go against the city attorney, but I just said my piece regarding all these people, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very, very much. Madam Clerk, if we could open the roll on this item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
Thank you. I know we want to reconsider actually item number 18. So if we could open the roll on reconsideration on number 18 for Mr. Alarcon. Close the roll and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
That will be called special. Next item?
Next item, Madam President, is item number 17, and that was called special for cards.
Yes, Mr. Williams. Clyde Williams?
$848, equitable application of the law. You need to change the basis of conducting these liens. $848, $851 doesn't seem to be appropriate for the magnitude of the audience. However, inconsistent with the Recreation and Parks Department, they've not enforced their lease agreement for over 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Madam Clerk, please open the roll on this item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item, Madam President, is item number 18, and that was called special for Councilmember Alarcon.
Mr. Alarcon? Item 18? And we do have this, the property owner is also here, I believe.
Yeah, I just wanted to allow the property owner to
Yes.
make their appeal.
Mr. McCarthy?
Hi, I'm Brian McCarthy. I'm here on 11759 Fenton Avenue. Item 18, you guys had previously approved a lien in the amount of $9,828. Basically, this lien, the amount we find is excessive for work that was never completed on the property. The property was in fact fenced. It had a 6-foot-high fence out there. It just needed a little bit of repair. It was under some shrubbery, and the city had contracted out a fence contractor to put in a new fence, and the fence contractor excessively billed the city in the amount of $3,920 for the fence itself, and they put in an 8-foot-high chain link fence with a He overdid the gate as well, a 10-foot high gate, and he put in permanent concrete fixtures. We obtained an estimate right about that very same time that we got this bill from a contractor that he would put in a fence for $1,400 to $1,500. But nevertheless, we had a fence out there. It just needed a little bit of repair, so we were preempted from doing the fence repair work, and then the city was overly billed. And then second to that, also as part of this lien is vegetation clearance. The city had also, again, contracted with somebody to go out and clear the property, but according to our contract, or our superintendent on the property, he went out there and had to do all the weed abatement anyway. He said basically they just drove across the property, knocked down the weeds, and probably didn't spend more than a couple of hours out there. So we would like to just contest these invoices that the city received and then subsequently lien the property. The landowner is cleaning up the property. He's spent an exorbitant amount of money taking out old buildings that were burned, and is that my buzzer? Taking out old property and debris and so forth. So the property is in the process of being improved and going to be putting in affordable housing. And at this point, to file a lien.
Thank you. You have to keep to the time. That was the timer. You get 2 minutes to be able to do that. So I appreciate that. Mr. Alarcon?
Yeah, Madam President, I would like to ask Building and Safety if they would step forward and describe from their perspective what is going on this particular site.
Good morning. I'm Andy Harris from Building and Safety, Principal Inspector.
Mic closer.
Closer? Okay.
Could you just react to the comments of the appellant?
When the order was initially written on this property, Mr. McCarthy called our department, requested a 30-day extension of time. He was granted a 30-day extension of time. 3 months later, the department went out there. The weeds were still over 5 feet high. We cut the weeds. We replaced the fence because the fence wasn't standing up when we went out there. We're not allowed to repair his property. We're only allowed to replace it.
Okay. How long has this project been in concern of Building and
Almost 2
Safety?
years now.
2 years. And can you describe the general condition of the property?
There was abandoned vehicles on the property. The weeds were 5 feet high. There was graffiti all over the duplex. We abated the graffiti. We removed the weeds. We fenced it. And there was over 200 cubic yards of debris that we removed from the property, besides the weeds.
Did you tell me that a part of the house had fallen down?
Part of the duplex had collapsed at one point, yes.
How large a part?
I have no idea based on the notes.
Uh-huh. Okay, you showed me a picture of the rubble.
Right.
Can you give a description to council what that might, how would you describe that
I'd say
situation?
an approximate 40 by 30 building collapsed all the way to the ground.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, I try to work with my constituents, particularly when they are facing these costly processes. This particular site was purchased in relatively poor condition, so we wanted to give, and I commend Building and Safety for giving a lot of leeway to this owner to give them the opportunity to clean up this site. When you look at the photos, you can see that the property is in complete disrepair and has been severely vandalized. And when a home falls down, and there hasn't been an earthquake, you got to wonder what the heck is going on. But in this case, this is, for those who are listening to Channel 35, this is a wake-up call. We do not want to do the work. It's very costly when we do the work, and we don't do it in the way that the owner wants us to do the work. So when you get one of these notices to clean up, otherwise it's going to cost you a lot of money. Nevertheless, I am comfortable with Building and Safety's report. I support the billing of costs to the owner. I, in fact, want the owner to do a lot more than that. I want him to clean up the property, and I hope that he is more responsible so that we don't have to come back with more costly expense to this owner. Thank you.
Thank you. That item is now before us. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item, Madam President, I believe the amendment is still in the works on item number 27. Do you wish to go to item number 38 that has cards?
Would you like to verbally make the amendment, Mr. Wesson?
And we're just making this a loan that is repayable within 10 years.
Okay. So that'll amend the existing report with it being a loan repayable in 10 years. As amended, Madam Clerk, if you'd like to open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item, Madam President, is item number 38. That was called special for cards.
Thank you. And before we go to 38, I believe item number 49, we wish to continue until February 11th.
Yes, that is one of the closed session items.
Yes, so we'll continue that to February 11th. I'm sorry, you said item 38?
Yes.
Mr. Zumadog.
Yes, thank you. Zumadog, candidate for mayor. I've been coming to these chambers for the past 3 years almost. This has been the issue that I came across. Thank you to the person in City Hall who said, gee, Zuma, the real money wasting every day is through these special event fee waivers. I had no idea what they were. I started to look into it, and I don't think anybody in the history of the city has spoken out more against an issue like this. And now we have the people citywide speaking about this. Thank you very much for the added support. But I guess I'd also like to note that Zumadog's public comments from these chambers about these special event fee waivers were published in the Los Angeles Times and then also broadcast on Fox 11 10 o'clock news. So it's become a real issue here in the city. When you're calling for firings and layoffs, you're talking about cutting services across the board. We're closing the parks early, closing the libraries, and then you're giving out $400,000 to the Academy Awards. By the way, okay, and I'd like to say all of these items under these special event fee waivers are supposed to be open to the public. Now, the city council can say, well, gee, we can't lose business to other cities. Well, that's not what this money is for, the community, open to the public events. And I'd like to say here's a real reason we need to scale back on these special event fees. This money comes out of the general fund. Public safety. Zumadog is here to say we are going to need all money for the fire department, emergency medical services, and helping the LAPD be able to secure locations when we need EMS to respond to these emergency situations. It's becoming increasingly difficult, and you can talk about all these dog and pony shows, but we're going to be having a real crisis, and we need the money we're going to need money for the fire and for the police to protect the citizens. Stop this waste of money.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments on this, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on this item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
Next items, Madam President, are the closed session items, and I believe there are cards on item number 45.
Yes, there is one card on item 45. Mr. Arnold Sachs.
Yes, good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. Just very quickly on the closed session items that are before the council, is it possible to get an update in the trying times of the fiscal deficit that the city faces, that the amount of money being spent for outhouse council is updated on a quarterly basis for the public's benefit, and what the total spent on litigation paid out is also updated for the public's benefit on a quarterly basis. It certainly would be helpful because we don't get these items or these answers from the council. All we get is more closed session items, we don't have a policy that seems to address any of this red ink that's flowing like a river.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. City Attorney, I believe we're ready to go into executive session. To our officers, if you could please clear the room. We are back in open session. Madam Clerk, let those items that we need to approve in open session.
First item, Madam President, is item number 45, and that's Mayday federal litigation settlements, and the settlement amount is $12,850,000, and also selected training at the police department.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If you could open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
For the record, the vote was 14-0 in closed session, with Councilmember Rosendahl absent.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item, Madam President, is item number 46, that settlement in the case of James Smith versus City of Los Angeles, and the settlement amount is $285,000.
Madam Clerk, if you could open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
And for the record, that vote was 10-0 in closed session with Council members Rosendahl, Labange, Wesson, Parks, and Cardenas absent.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item is item 47, case of Berta Sanabria versus City of LA et al., and the settlement amount is $170,000.
Madam Clerk, if you would open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk?
Next item is item 48, and that settlement in the case of David Medina versus City of Los Angeles, and the settlement amount is $450,000.
Madam Clerk, if you could open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item is item 50, and that's in the case of Angela Cruz versus City of LA. Settlement amount is $200,000.
Madam Clerk, if you could please open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They will be posted and referred.
And that clears the desk.
Thank you. Ms. Perry.
Madam Chair, and I'm standing over here at this desk instead, and I want us all to rise and welcome Cecilia into the chamber before she gets third-degree burns on her face from the number of birthday candles on there for our council president, Eric Garcetti. Yeah. To wish him a very happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Our Garcetti president. Come on over here.
That was a sad, pathetic, yes. It was. Thank you. Clever. Thank you, Eric. Do we have any other announcements, colleagues? Announcements? If not, I know I have adjourning motion. Are there other adjourning motions today? Okay. If we could ask everyone to please rise. Thank you. Ms. Hahn, followed by Mr. Weiser.
Thank you. Can we adjourn today in the memory of Mary Donahue Hoffman, who passed away at her home in Redondo Beach Sunday morning, January 25th. Mary was born in Erin Prairie, Wisconsin in 1923, and she lived in Redondo Beach in the same house for the past 54 years. She had many jobs over her lifetime, but the one she was most proud of was being a special education teacher in Redondo Beach for LA County Department of Education. She graduated from Cal State Dominguez Hills in 1985. Apparently she would always say that it's never too late to learn. And she retired from the county a few years ago. She's survived by her husband, Philip John Hoffman, and 4 of their 5 children, including Dan Hoffman, who is a very active member of our Wilmington community and is executive director of the Wilmington Chamber of Commerce, along with also Tom Hoffman, Marie Hoffman, Phyllis Hoffman, and the late Julianne Sorowski. She's survived by 9 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren, as well as her sisters Marguerite, Helen, and her brothers Patrick and Tom. A visitation will be held Thursday from 5 to 9 with the rosary at 7 o'clock in the evening at Rice Mortuary in Torrance. And her funeral mass will be on Friday, January 30th at St. James Church in Redondo Beach. When asked how she would like to be remembered, Mary said, "A kind, caring person who loved her family and her friends and her fellow man. She will certainly be remembered and missed by all who knew her."
Mr. Weiser.
Thank you, Madam President. I am deeply saddened today to adjourn this in the memory of Istiaro Glasgow, who passed away on Sunday, January 18th. Istiaro, known to her friends and family as Isti, was greatly involved in the Eagle Rock community, from Dahlia Heights PTA to the Eagle Rock Chamber of Commerce, the Accidental Women's Club, and the Eagle Rock Community Preservation and Revitalization Corporation. Her husband, Lachlan Glasgow, who passed before her, was a noted ceramicist and involved in the California Artists Council. Both of them helped to influence the decision to retrofit the Eagle Rock Carnegie Library into an arts and culture facility. ISTE worked in promoting the Center for the Arts in Eagle Rock and greatly helped the center to become what it is today, a place for the celebration of culture and the arts. She was also the Director of Arts at Barnesville Park, and ISTE was the first owner and operator of the Efloria Floral Shop in Eagle Rock, which is now one of the Eagle Rock's most popular floral shops. ISTE was the great-granddaughter of Brigham Young and was brought up in Utah. Later in her spiritual search, she turned to Buddhism, and then she and her husband turned to the Muslim faith, becoming involved in the Subud Brotherhood. She was devoted to Subud and to the nonprofit organization that the family started called My Neighborhood International. In the end, she embraced all faiths and felt that loving all humankind was her mission. The memorial service which the family held was truly inspirational and filled with the warmth and talent of the family. ISTE's family held a memorial service for her on Saturday, January 24th at Forest Lawn, Glendale. She was survived by 5 children, Rauf, Hamida, Istima, Mutar, and Mutalib, and 12 grandchildren. As an advocate for the arts and a community supporter, ISTE Glasgow will be greatly missed by all who knew her, and certainly the Eagle Rock community will miss her as well.
Thank you. Colleagues, I have 2 adjourning motions today. The first would be for Rose Just. She was an amazing woman who survived many things, including the Holocaust. She grew up in a small city in Romania where her family was really the head of the Jewish community in that neighborhood. Her parents were giving people who raised Ruth to give without question or hesitation. In fact, her family made food for the poor and left baskets on porches without a note because that was what a mensch did. And Ruth certainly was a mensch throughout her life. Ruth lived a rich childhood and was kind to many. She befriended those less fortunate and really was a shining bright light. Sadly, during the war, she was taken to a concentration camp the day she was supposed to get married. However, she continued to be a giver and carer for those even in the camp. And while she was in the camp, Ruth was on kitchen work, so she peeled potatoes and carrots. Her 2 sisters were younger and in a different section in the kids section. She knew that her siblings were barely being fed, so she would sneak food to them. She did this knowing that if she had been caught, she would have been killed on sight. However, she was very blessed and watched over, and one day, as she was led into the gas chamber along with so many others, she and 3 other lucky souls were taken out because it was too crowded. After the war, she married George. They had 2 wonderful children, Susan and Ilan, and unfortunately, she lost her husband, had his first heart attack at a very young age. So Ruth was responsible for taking on jobs to support the family. She was a teacher's aide and worked part-time at a yarn store, and although they were struggling, she always made sure that her children were cared for first. She would feed her children the meat and chicken while she ate beans and rice and noodles. She also made sure that her children got through college and provided emotional support to them and their families throughout the rest of their life. She will never be forgotten, and one of my constituents that I had the pleasure of getting to know and had a lovely note from her son. She is survived by so many family and friends, and send our condolences to her family. She had many miracles in her life to be with us this long time. The other adjournment I'd like to make is for Millard Fuller, who was the founder of Habitat for Humanity, who unfortunately passed away yesterday at the age of 74. He, at the age of 29, walked away from a very successful business life to devote himself to the poor. And what he described as the theology of the hammer, by providing and building more than 300,000 homes worldwide. He died Tuesday in Georgia. His brother said that he felt ill and had a severe headache and was taken to a hospital where he passed away. More than a million people live in the homes, which are in more than 100 countries. I had the pleasure of meeting him on a couple of occasions when I worked for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And in fact, I think it was, Ms. Hahn, in your district before you were elected that we shared and hit hammers there. He really has engaged and inspired people across this country to give back to those those who do not have enough. And it really was based on his religion and some of the challenges he came to experience in his life that he dedicated his life to Habitat for Humanity. And so he, he really was someone, when you look at some of the handwritten notes from the meeting that started the group's grand ambition, which was to build housing for 1 million low-income people. And that goal was reached in August of 2005 when home number 200,000 was built, and each home had an average of 5 people in that. But he was really an extraordinary man, and his efforts will live on. Habitat Humanity has grown to something that we will always remember, something that he created. So he is survived by his brother Doyle, his wife, and their son Christopher, their daughters Kim, Faith, and Georgia of Jacksonville, Florida, and 9 grandchildren. And just in he loved the religious connotations he saw on their names. And the last one, one of the ones he built was in Shreveport, Louisiana, after Katrina and Rita. What will Little Genesis become? He asked at the time. What will Little Serenity become? We don't know, but we know one thing: if we give them a good place to live, they've got a better chance. And he lived by that. Ms. Hahn, and maybe all members. Does that go? Ms. Hahn?
I also had the pleasure of meeting Millard Fuller and his wife, Linda, I think her name was, and have been so involved in Habitat for Humanity. Myself, as you said, way before I was on the city council, I was actually a board member in the Long Beach, LA Harbor area. But there is a man who has made a difference. You know, he and his wife, and really and his family, were dedicated to the impossibility of making sure that every person who wanted to would be able to have decent shelter, a roof over their heads. And his goal was to get everybody, particularly in America, although they've done international projects, but everyone in this country who lived in substandard housing. And we've seen the people that have literally been plucked from garages. There was a home we built in my district, and the woman that moved in was literally living in a chicken coop with her daughter. So his goal was really, and as you said, it was really about his faith. And he didn't believe that you had much to tell people about God or faith if you couldn't figure out how to at least give people a decent place to live. So it's truly sad that he passed away, but he can go to heaven happy knowing that he really gave people the basic quality of life, and that was a place to live.
Mr. Alarcon?
Say that prior to being a council member, I was a board member for the San Fernando Valley Habitat for Humanity and established the very first City of Los Angeles program for Habitat as a city council member way back in the mid-90s. And in doing so, I remember we had to change the policies of the City of Los Angeles, and I struggled with the housing department, and eventually we were able to recognize sweat equity as an asset and give credit to those who were providing physical service and not something you could put a dollar value on. In fact, that's exactly what we did. We put a dollar value on it. But I have to tell you that having worked with that organization, and just yesterday, by the way, this council approved a $3 million project in my district in Pacoima. And I have to tell you that Millard Fuller was more than just a religious person. He was more than somebody who wanted to provide service to the community. He was somebody who understood the economics of home ownership. It was through that thinking that when I was a state senator, I introduced a legislation to create the Cal Home program, which was fundamentally rooted in the notion that home ownership and the proportion of home ownership in a community strengthens the community to the extent that it is a large proportion. I would remind folks that the City of Los Angeles, in the City of Los Angeles, about 70% of our families are not living in homes that they own. That reduces their collateral, that reduces their consumer ability, that reduces our overall quality of life as a community. And unless we change that proportion and increase the proportion of home ownership, we will not see dramatic change in the city. And I believe that Millard Fuller has done more than just provide a service. he is inspiring a movement of economic understanding that the American dream is founded in the principles of home ownership, and we need to get back to that formula if we're really going to have impact. Millard Fuller had that kind of impact in so many projects. It was my pleasure to volunteer with my family in the New Orleans project. It was my pleasure to do so in Pacoima just recently. In fact, we're going to have a big activity with 90210. The cast from 90210 is going to help do a build in my district, so you're all welcome. And I didn't even know it was back on TV, I admit. But I think it's cool that he inspires that kind of participation. So God bless Millard Fuller, and I hope that the things that he inspired will continue with the millions of other people that he has touched with his wisdom.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. We'll make that all members. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Meeting's now adjourned.